if you start to research the people who own all these filming, music labels, all these gaming companies, you start to connect the dots. You realize these are evil people.
The way that they were addressing me and speaking to me was as if they were never taught morals in their household or outside the household of how to be appropriate in their behavior. It's as if I was like, they were still in the game, you know?
Online didn't exist. Like when you had World of Warcraft and everything, even back then, you remember when you had the what you call it, the router thing, you need plug the thing in the phone and you need to wait it. Like, it wasn't that internet was readily available, Wi-Fi and stuff. We didn't have that. So it was very hard. So you have this split screen. So it was like you could decide to sit, watch a movie with the boys, or you can be outside, or you can play games.
In an age that technology is reigning supreme, many of us are living in a reality which has become blurred, where we don't know the truth from falsehood, where we don't know real from false. One of the realities we're going to discuss today in this podcast, inshallah ta'ala, which is the addiction to gaming. I got my host, or my guest, shall I say, Simon, as usual. Yeah, beautiful face. And we've got Rashid today,
mashallah,
who's a specialist. We've got on board guest today. Yeah, he's specialist,
special
right?
in all areas, man.
All areas, mashallah, especially in the area we're going to discuss today. So
Mashallah.
Let's open the platform. We got gaming and its effect on the human mind these days. Now, I want to introduce by saying I read a post by a young boy who was basically what they call introvert. He didn't have many friends, and he found his friends through games. Do you understand me? So he had this whole alternate reality that he was living, and when they took him away from it, he actually, had a mental breakdown and ended up killing his mom or killing someone. Someone died as a result of it. Yeah.
How did took away from what was he
put
in jail?
If I remember rightly, the mother tried to take him away because she was like, she had to bring him. That's it. She had to bring him his food by the door. Yeah, he wasn't showering. Yeah. These kind of things, Yeah,
I've heard it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So she wanted to take him away, and he killed her. That was it. He killed his mom. Yeah. So that's kind of where things are heading. Not only that, I also want to say something else that I have noticed amongst the younger generation, the effects of games and tablets on the kids. They seem to be just like, one boy in the mosque the other day was just doing this, and I was like, what is he doing? And then I kind of clocked on that he's used to swiping, and he's like, his parents couldn't really control him. So, Mr. Specialist, what have you found from some of the things that I mentioned today?
Well, firstly, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Praise be to Allah. Well, gaming in general, first of all, it's evolved. Before, it used to be very simple. You guys know Tetris and Atari and all this stuff. It used to be very simple, just...
I'm not that old, though.
No, that's my generation, bro.
He's the one, bro. He's the one, man.
Maybe me and you were both the same. Some of the same game.
Like, I grew up in split screen era.
Yeah.
Really?
I managed to catch on.
I grew up in the Tetris kind of, we had the computer screen that looked like a big machine, and you can do and hit the ball,
definitely.
You know that one?
Yeah, there's the arcade and so on, but
that type of stuff.
Yeah, so gaming, it evolved. It used to be something very simple, just this here, this there. Some people used to use it, when they're bored, tired, take a break. And generally speaking, usually when people think about that, it's fine, right? But even back then, I've seen an interview with one of the first people who played Tetris, that when he played it, first time Tetris released and everything, he looked away and he would see all the Tetris falling. This simple game had an impact on this guy. So over time, gaming has developed more. As you guys can see now, it's very advanced, complex, shooting, sometimes very graphic and violent. So gaming can really, really affect people, especially if they don't take care of it. Even if they don't take care of it, gaming now has kind of become like a silent weapon. Back then, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, for example, the games, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, they were just about, guns, army now and stuff. If you go look at Call of Duty now, for example, it's all celebrities on it. They try and push certain agendas, like LGBT and this stuff. It's very clear. Almost every single game now has this. It's to the point where
it's used as a kind of psychological warfare.
Yeah, it's used as a weapon. Like there was this recent game, I really forgot its name, Concord. This game was being worked by a studio for 8 years. it released within like a day. They shut it down. Why? Because they used this game. They made it all like, you know, woke agenda, really dumb stuff, and no one liked it. So they abandoned it. But nowadays, people are starting to accept many disgusting ideologies because they come from games.
Yeah, so I just want to interject in what you just mentioned here. So obviously, I've introduced you like messing around a little bit, but actually, you were a professional streamer, right? You did it professionally.
At one point, yes.
Yeah, so you were into the gaming, you did it professionally. So you've seen some things and noticed some things, and that's the reason why you stopped that profession, so to speak, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, good.
So when I started streaming, the goal was, you know, to have fun and as a career as well, because streaming can make a lot of money. And you notice now with the top streamers in America and so on Twitch, on Kick, all these platforms, they're the top, and they make millions of dollars a year, like, you know, with no effort, you know, just by playing games, you know, comedy and so on. So that was my goal, you know, but at the same time, you know, I'm a Muslim. I try to be a practicing Muslim. So my goal was to make like a halal version, you know, be a halal streamer. But as I started growing and growing, I reached to the point I had a total of 2,000 followers on Twitch. And 2,000 followers on Twitch. And I would have, you know, 10, 20 viewers per stream. And sometimes I had 100 viewers. I got raided. Raided is basically when a popular streamer invites his viewers over to you. Many times, like kind of big people. So as I started to go on and on, I noticed my value started to shift, you know. Sometimes I'd act a bit of like a clown, scream really loud, jump all over the place, you know, say dumb things, do some dumb things without realizing sometimes, you know. And obviously the people liked it and it was funny, but over time I started to realize, you know, like, as a Muslim, does this really represent who I am? As like a human with morals, jumping around, screaming like a child, like as if like I'm a man-child. And it got to the point where, you know, I would always go to the mosque, and even during streaming, I would, you know, time for the mosque, I would stop the stream, pause it, go and come back. I started to notice that it would affect my mosque, you know, like my worship. I would be distracted. Usually, I would sit down after praying, you know, do some remembrance of Allah. I noticed I started getting up, walking away. And one time my father stopped me. He's like, be careful. You know, I'm noticing the change. Is this really who you want to be? So from that time, I was thinking like, he has a good point. And then one morning I just woke up, deleted everything, closed everything. So yeah, my page is still up, yani. And I still have a community on Discord. It's a messaging app. And they'll probably see this video. So they'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's very highly valuable, because if you look at it from the perspective of someone who's been in and come out, you always look at it, there's that experience, there's that exposure, there's a sense of knowledge. And we're always we're commanded and we're encouraged by Allah to ask the people of knowledge if we don't know.
Definitely.
And knowledge, it's not limited to just Islamic knowledge. It's knowledge of anything that we're looking into. So, you know, it's very important that you've had that valuable experience that you can now share with other people. Because if you look at what you said previously, which is games used to be something which you used to do, it's a fun pastime to kind of...
It's like puzzles, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What's called crossword stuff, like in the newspaper.
That actually helps you in some form of educational experience, right? So whether it's Tetris was trying to problem solve, or it's, you know, whatever it might be, it had some sort of value behind it. Yeah. And what we're seeing now is a shift between that value being not so much problem solving, not so much helping you develop, but destroying you as a human being.
I can give many examples. And
keep you engaged and consumed by this event. And I remember, like myself, I was like, the Need for Speed came out, right? And, you know, I always wanted a gaming console when I was young, and coming from a family who didn't have much, I was always like pressing my parents. I wanted my friends to have it, and they couldn't get it, because at that time, to get a gaming console, you had to be from an elite class of, you had to be elite class of people. So I was always upset, and I was always, you know, wishing for these devices. And when I finally brought it, I was engulfed in you know, in this game and this so on and so forth. And I remember it was like 8 hours I didn't move from my chair except to go to the bathroom, and I even ate in the same chair. And I remember coming out of that 8 hours feeling very like spaced out. My reality was not the same anymore. Like people, I was turning my phone off. I wasn't engaging with people. And I remember thinking to myself at that point, I've got bigger ambitions than this. Like I was lost for a whole day. Like it's gone, you know? Yeah. And not to say I stopped gaming, but I didn't develop that interest that I thought I would develop from it, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of realized that how much it can actually overcome you.
Definitely.
And I saw in my peer circle, people fighting each other, getting angry, elated by, you know, these games, and we're having a competition, a tournament. And for me, that was always a bit of a red flag. Yeah. I don't know if you had any experience the same like that?
Actually, I was a gamer, like a proper gamer before. I had.
You were the expert, right?
I liked I really loved the MMORPG. Okay. What's it called? Massive multiplayer online role-playing games.
Okay, so you're affiliated. You're Stripes, yeah? I feel miskin here right now. I don't know this stuff, right? He's like...
I started with the console, actually, with Halo and all of these.
Okay.
I was in the beginning.
I remember Halo, yeah.
And I remember back then, it was more like you getting together with your friends.
Yeah, definitely.
That was social environment.
Yeah, that's what I said with the split screen thing. Online didn't exist. Like when you had World of Warcraft and everything, even back then, you remember when you had the what you call it, the router thing, you need plug the thing in the phone and need to wait it. Like it wasn't that internet was readily available, Wi-Fi and stuff. We didn't have that, so it was very hard. So you have this split screen. So it was like you could decide to sit, watch a movie with the boys, or you can be outside, or you can play games. It was like the same thing.
We had a 007.
007?
Yeah.
James Bond?
James Bond, N64.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, that was my scriptsy. Yeah.
Bro, the young people listening, like, what
are you talking about? N64.
I managed to catch on to Halo and so on, you know. Yeah. Even like Halo before, and then now is a big difference. But before we go into the topic of gaming, I wanted to mention something about streaming. Is that if back then, 20 years ago, first of all, streaming, they would swear and so on. This is one thing. Swear and very sexual topics sometimes, you know, as you know, like joking and so on. But if you look at streaming now, the top streamers, and I don't prefer to mention names, but it's very, if you click on Twitch, you go to the left, you'll see them. They're either people who are like doing very, very disgusting things, bringing disgusting people, rappers, celebrities, you know, women not dressed properly and doing acts just for the people to, you know, watch and, you know, be engaged. Or it's people who are doing dumb, dangerous things like jumping over cars, you know, shouting at people for no reason. One of them even made like a baby cry, you know, just shouted at the baby, made him cry for no reason. And the parent wanted to punch that guy, but he had a big security guy with him. So, and the person said, I didn't mean it. Whether he meant it or not is a different story. But that's what you noticed. That's what you notice is that to be popular, you have to be the most degenerate, the most immoral, the most, you know, like sexually explicit. It's gone to the point now where they allow women to just wear very extremely tight clothing and bikinis, just sit in a hot tub. And all these men, we can't call them even men, they call them simps, if you guys know what I mean, simps. No. And they just donate. They become like attached, like it's like a drug. It's like they're stealing their morality out of them. They just sit and donate. It's crazy.
That's for me. Like I'm the oldest in the room, so I'm gonna go back a little bit. When I was at school, every kid does dumb things, right? We're children. We don't know. We're figuring out life. But there was like a group of people that did these type of degenerate things, and we always call them certain names. I'm not gonna use.
They were the outsiders.
They were the outsiders. You know. Yeah, they were the you know, she's and he's you know. And you see, for me, living this life that Allah gave me, God the Almighty gave me, and I'm seeing the difference. I'm saying that when did that shift start to happen? Because we always saw those people as disgusting, outsiding, tramp individuals, you know? And now those same people are the highest flying everything. The more that you show, the more that you do like horrible things, the more. And it frustrates me a little bit. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like the clever, smart individuals who tried and, you know, and are trying to achieve something are always overlooked and bypassed by these people who just, you know,
the 100%.
Just I don't know what words to put out there that are appropriate for me to lose.
I think the shift is like I've listened to a lot of podcasts about this. Like where we talked about it when social media, for example, a few episodes ago, right? How social media affects people and all this. And I think it's like a combination of multiple things. Because if you look at all entertainment today, like you mentioned, it's, you know, it's basically the same.
Yes.
Movies, games, street, like everything is the same, you know, basically. And it's like, it's become this rapid change in multiple platforms where like you barely can tell the platforms apart right now. And it's like this quick, you know, hooking stuff. And I think it's just like, it's so accessible. I think that's just how it is.
One thing that you mentioned is very, very important is, as you said, it's about this quick gratification or like, you know, this satisfaction, you know,
rush.
This rush. Everything is a rush, adrenaline. You watch a movie and it's like, for example, he's bang, boom, bang, you can't even keep up with it. Like you know, the endorphins and everything are flying off. And this, you know, like is affecting us on a micro level and also a macro level, which is that, you know, on a small scale, we're looking at the family unit, the morals between family members, the morals between brothers, siblings, X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of rivalry. There's a lot of breakup of relationships. And on the other side, we see societies just falling into, plummeting into a very immoral, hedonistic, you know, accepting of the worst individuals to be in the highest of highest positions. It doesn't make any sense. And I just asked myself, we know as Muslims that we've been given a life for a purpose, and that purpose has direction, as a goal. Everything is very well structured. Everything's put together in a very clear manner for us to live a clear way of life.
Right.
And I do think to myself, while I sit here, is it that this entertainment industry is just to oppose that life that God the Almighty wants?
100%.
Because sometimes we find that when someone offers something which is too good to be true, normally it is too good to be true. Yeah. Here's this game and this VR and this, you know, Unreal Platform 5 or whatever it is now at the moment. We can make you look like you know, X, Y, Z. But the reality is, yeah, it's good. It can help you in some ways. It could, like, for example, they're doing like remote operations on people, heart patients, X, Y, Z, because the heart doctor can't be everywhere. So that's a good thing. But we're going to give you this good thing and we're going to stick something else down here at the same time, which is that we're going to corrupt everybody else. I'm wondering if this is the case, and have you any experience of this happening?
Definitely. I mentioned before about, you know, games being simple, but, you know, this change in morality and this change in the real goal behind games wasn't something that, you know, happened a few years ago. If you think about it, and I'll start with, for example, Need for Speed, because you mentioned it. First, you have Tetris, you know, solving things. And then first GTA came out, GTA 1. When was it? Like in 2000s or something?
It depends which one.
Like the first ever GTA.
The first ever. I didn't play that, I think.
Yeah,
but
like probably 2000s, you know?
Probably.
You know, slowly...
Before San Andreas and those.
Yeah. They glorified, you know, you being a gangster and you know, against the police, going for heist, doing missions, crime. This was seen as a being good thing, and the police are, you know, as they say, like, you know, the ops or these type of things. Or they call them feds or whatever, you know, these dumb terms. So slowly but surely you start to notice that the bad people are being seen as good and the good are being as bad. And then I'll give you another example. Before GTA is a bit clear. Need for Speed. It's not just a racing game. Need for Speed, one of the Need for Speed games, I'm not sure if it's all of them, one of the goals is you have a police car chasing you. You have to, you know, drive fast, learn how to go left and right and down here and down there to escape the police. And the people watching might think, oh no, he's just overreacting. But if you think about it, previously,
what does that do to your brain?
Yeah, really? Previously and now, that's how propaganda works. If you look at it in the wars and so on, how would they influence people? It's by, you know, small posters, movies here and there. This is literally how propaganda works. And if you look at the games now, the most famous games, I'll give you an example, GTA 5. Soon there'll be a new one, whatever. Crime, immorality, degeneracy. You can go to clubs. So all seen as fine. Heists, escaping from police. It's all seen as, you know, cool and nice. Red Dead Redemption is another game. You're like an outlaw and so on. And almost every single game now has some form of immorality or woke culture and so on. Even like Minecraft now. Minecraft, they started putting messages. Minecraft, the game for kids, they start putting messages. and hearing their small bits and pieces, LGBT this and so on. So it's very, very clear. Even like whatever game you can choose, you can always find something that's against your morality, your common sense, logic, or even religion. I'll give you an example. Call of Duty. It was either Black Ops 2 or Call of Duty Vanguard. It was exposed that there had been pages of the Quran, which is the holy book of the Muslims, in the toilet. In the toilet, on the floor with blood on it. And then what they say, oh, we didn't know this was an accident. And how does it even happen? Like, if you're a developer, that is impossible. Like, maybe if anyone watches and he develops, that's impossible that you choose
need to put something there.
Yeah, like you choose a holy book out of all the objects in the game.
You know where they probably get that from is, the whole world created itself. It bang and blah, and it came out of nowhere. No, it's not. Design necessitates a designer.
Yeah,
there had to be a thought process between everything that you do. Everything you do. Yeah, exactly.
There's more than one example. Like, I believe it was Resident Evil. One of the levels, they have a door, and it has the same design as the Kaaba, which is where we do the pilgrimage for the Muslims. Another example, I think also Resident Evil, or one of these games like Resident Evil, where you're fighting the boss and in the background a Quran falls on the floor. Or even Call of Duty, I saw a video, a hadith in the toilet, and the hadith is talking about the beauty of God Almighty Allah. So it's many things, and even without this, they put small things here and there that you notice. Subliminal messages. This has happened in cartoons from the 80s and 70s to this day.
I you know what's funny is because I, as an adult, was given a job to basically create reels and posts for some Islamic content. And there was one about the children and the cartoons about children. And I watched some cartoons in order to take some clips to put it inside. And I realized in Pinocchio, there is a lot of subliminal messages about how to basically grown men will use boys and go to that island, this certain island, and there's boys in the island, and I'm gonna and he's doing that, and I'm like watching, I'm like, whoa, I used to watch that, man. And but again, it feeds back into this whole idea or concept that is this really, can we just see this as an attack on the real focus and purpose of our life? Do you know what I find really interesting about what's been mentioned is it reminds me of the hadith, a narration of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned, and I'm not going to mention word for word, but I'm going to give you the general gist of the narration. It said there will become years of treachery. There will come a time where there's years of treachery, where the honest will be considered a liar, and where the liar will be considered the honest, and the trustworthy will be considered as the untrustworthy, and the untrustworthy will be considered as the one who's trustworthy. And you mentioned, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, a terminology for a person, and the companions asked, what is this terminology? Ruwaybida. What is this person? He said, is a vile, inappropriate, immoral man leading the people. Subhanallah. Now, for me personally,
every single streamer there, but
exactly.
That's literally I'm literally being serious. Almost every single most popular streamer has women pretty much almost half like naked, all doing disgusting acts I don't even want to mention.
Yeah.
I don't want to begin to mention.
Yeah.
The most leading streamers are women just in hot tubs. No skill, no nothing, just doing this. And
that's the thing. But what, for me, as a person of trying to be a person of faith, it makes me look at the world and this reality that we're discussing now in a different light, which is, number one, it increased me in my faith. That 1446 years ago, a man who couldn't read and write in the desert, who was gifted the revelation by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who called the people back to worshiping Allah, said there's going to come a time of years of treachery, and this is what's going to happen. And it's actually happening now. It's in front of us. Where we see the most idiotic, despicable, disgraceful people are leading everybody. Like, we look at these type of rappers or whatever they are. They've got these funky teeth in, they've got this flipping bright hair, tattoos all over them, and they got and they're doing all this get me and all this stuff, and everyone's like, I want to be like them. What is happening in the world? And the Prophet, who was divinely sent by Allah, knew that this was going to happen.
The craziest thing is, you mentioned that there's a streamer a few days ago. He actually got banned for one day because of this. It's been exposed that he uses like a dead rat. He said this himself. He uses a dead rat as an alarm clock, number one. from the smell wakes him up. Number 2.
Say what?
I'm being serious. I'm not lying. And this is nothing. This is nothing. The second thing is, he would wake up in the middle of the night with bleeding gums. What he would do, wipe on the wall, go back to sleep. Thirdly, this guy's crazy. His room is like disgusting to the point, if you saw it, you'd throw up. And there's a video of him live on stream, eating like a biscuit. There's a maggot worm scrolling around.
Let's unpackage this for a second. We're talking about the industry of gaming.
I don't feel like unpacking that.
This guy is one of the top in the world. For streamers.
But just unpackage it. We know, as Muslims, who Allah, God the Almighty, He gave us the book, the Quran. The very second chapter of the Quran has some very unique words. Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. No doubt, this is a book. In it is a guidance for those who are conscious and aware of Allah, aware of God the Almighty. And that's unpackaged what we're seeing around us. Inside that very book and inside the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we learn that in order for people to gain a certain level of social status, X, Y, and Z, they do inhumane acts to get the help of devils and other things around them in order to get their position. Now, we see in the entertainment industry people outwardly saying they use demonic forces in order to help them. This whole idea of his room's disgusting and despicable is also one of the ways that people use demonic forces to help them. Now, I know somebody who has left when I say the industry, that the entertainment industry, but it's not just like, for example, Twitch or streaming, whatever it might be. He was at the, we're talking Hollywood. Yeah, let's just put it like that. Hollywood. Yeah. And when he told me what he saw with his eyes, I was like, if it wasn't for the fact I know him and I trust him, I would
call him a liar.
Yeah. He said they have an actual room on set where they go in and they do rituals. Like,
something new.
Yeah. The devilish rituals in order to get them motivated, to get them going for their movie or become possessed or whatever it might be. He goes, I've seen it on set, and he mentioned the sets, and I saw the pictures on his phone. We're talking about some very, we don't
even want to mention.
Yeah, let's not mention. They're talking about some very high level Hollywood stuff, and this just again feeds into that whole narrative of, what are you living for and why are you living? Because the reality is, a parent watching this, young children watching this, adults watching this, they may say, "Oh, you guys are going over top. Your podcast always."
That's the most dangerous thing.
That's definitely.
And that's exactly. Look how dangerous that is. You're going over the top. But look at the reality of this. The other day, some kids were fighting in my block. Me as an adult, I came and I said, "Calm down. You're making a lot of noise." Polite way. Let's discuss it. The way that they were addressing me and speaking to me was as if they were never taught morals in their household or outside the household of how to be appropriate in their behavior. It's as if I was like, they were still in the game, this kind of,
Definitely.
And I'm like, firstly, stop. I'm an adult. Don't speak to me like that. It's bad manners, X, Y, and Z. And then I would ask them, like, young lady, what's your, faith? I'm Christian. I said, does it not say this in the Bible? She's laughing. So where will we get in these morals from? And that's the danger. The danger is that we are subjecting or exposing ourselves, our families, to a reality that is so far away from the reality that God the Almighty wants, that we are losing our children, we're losing our societies, and we're losing grip on peace in the world. And the reason why I say that is because there will never be peace unless there are morals and manners and respect and good
100%.
dealings. And the very greatest respect and moral you can have is a relationship between you and your Creator, doing what He wants you to do. And then on the creation to creation, my respect and manners between you. And if I've lost those two things, where is there ever going to come success? Where is there ever going to come a sense of peace, tranquility, or moral stability? And that's what I think this gaming industry is really unearthing. A lot of disconnect for a greater purpose in their eyes, which
100%.
is, I want to these people to become so brainwashed, which is very interesting, that the people who become Muslim are called brainwashed. I want them to be so brainwashed that they just consume, buy the next game, buy all the add-ons. They're lost for days and days and days streaming till they know nothing else. So it fills the pocket of somebody else.
It's gone to the point where if somebody says, you know, you shouldn't play a lot of games, these games have so and so and this, they clown him. But when there's a person, like the person I mentioned, who uses a dead rat as an alarm clock. I'm being serious, I'll show you later on. I don't want to mention his name, but he's known. They take this guy as a role model because he plays games and he's so-called intellectual. Flipped, just like you mentioned in the narration, you know? So it's really interesting. And when you think about it, all of these things are connected. Cartoons, shows, music, games. Why do all of these things, all of a sudden, there's no more shows about being respectful, it's all about being bad, about being music, drugs, party, all this. Because in the end, that's the end goal of these people, right? And I give a challenge to the people watching this. I dare you to find a game where there is no immoral things or illogical things or things that are, you know, considered like, how do I say this? Like very explicit, sexually explicit or so on. Or a game that doesn't have any things against religions. You will be impossible to find. Or anything related to Satanism or magic and so on. Impossible. Almost every single game has a bad aspect. The only two games I can think of. Rocket League is a game about, you know, you're in a car and it's like football but car version. That's the only thing. And that game has music, but you can mute the music. We'll just say that. The second game I can think of is FIFA. It's you guys probably know FIFA. Yeah, it was back in the day. FIFA. Yes,
I was a pro Evo guy.
Yeah, pro Evo.
Big names.
But even now, FIFA, they've added something called packs, and this is something for years now. And if you investigate what packs are, they are literally a form of gambling because you, other than the free packs you get, you pay money to try and get a good player. The value of this player may or may not be higher or less than the amount of money that you pay. Is the Islamic definition. That is literally gambling. The scholars have mentioned that any game that has these things, you cannot do this because this is literally by definition gambling. You're putting money into something. You don't know the result is going to be higher or lower than what you just paid. That is literally Islamic definition of gambling. Every single game, Minecraft for example. And I remember I used to play Minecraft, you know, and I would always have at the back of my mind about the potions, but you know, it's just a game, you know, it's fine, you know, it's just a game, you know, for kids.
But that's the danger.
Yeah, 100%. I realize now that why do they promote, like, you know, having witches and you have to go to the witch and take this thing and this brewing stand, you can make potions. These potions give you supernatural powers.
Why? Because when the celebrity stands on an interview and says, yeah, I do A, B, C, D, F, G to get possessed and go on the stage and perform with thousands.
It's fine because you're doing the games.
Because why
you doing the games to get powers up? You know, like you make a potion, you can breathe underwater. You make a potion, you can fly. You go and do something, get a totem of undying. Literally, like a totem is known to be like a magical adultery thing.
But not only that, but if we unpackage it further and we look at it and say, there is shirk or association, or how can I say this, the terminology? Shirk is to associate partners with Allah, right? Yes. To worship something alongside the one and only creator. But there's also shirk by negation, to take away from him, Almighty, some of his attributes and give it to other than him, and so on and so forth, right? And if we look at this, the attribute of dying, living, powers is in the hands of only God the Almighty, 100%, right? 100%. So when we now put it in the hands of other people, we're negating from God the Almighty abilities and we put them in the hands of men. So by that default, that definition, we're also seeing that it has such a deeper meaning than just on the surface of, it's just a game, it's just doing a potion, we can live longer. So no, the reality is the only one who is able and capable is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, and Muslims, when they contemplate this, deep down they know. Because I used to be like that. Deep down, I knew that this is something forbidden, but I would downplay it as, it's just a game, you know, it's not real, you know. And then slowly, to the point where some games now may even have pornographic content, literally.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
Many games,
you know,
many games. GTA, Red Dead Redemption, I believe, has some. Maybe Final Fantasy, Resident Evil. Some of these games, widespread, as if it's like nothing, no problem.
Yeah.
And how many kids play GTA? Convince their parents. Their parents don't know anything. Please, it's just a game, driving cars. Buy GTA. And then
the hostile.
Yeah, but
Crazy,
you know what?
crazy.
This is the thing, my brother. It's that, we have to be vigilant as individuals, even as individuals in society and individuals who may already be parents like me and Simon, or may become parents. We have to be very vigilant on what our kids are exposed to. And sometimes I would sit with my kids and they're playing their games and I'll be like, hold on, what's this? And my kids
100%.
don't play games, and there have to be certain conditions to play the games, right? One is that no music whatsoever. It cannot be all these other, and they play games that are from like back in my era, like, Super Mario Brothers or something, but sometimes every now and again, there is a certain thing that comes on YouTube or whatever it might be, and you sit down and you think to yourself, hold on, what is this that's been pushed? And again, I want to come back to the reality for the viewers and everybody else, is that manipulation happens on a gradual level.
That's how shaitan works.
And that's how, exactly, thank you. That's how the devil works. He doesn't work by coming to you and saying to you, jump off a cliff. He first puts you in your head doubts and self-confidence issues and X, Y, and Z and so on and so forth, until you eventually jump off the cliff, right?
Yeah.
So the whole concept of this entertainment industry and us looking at it like, oh, it's okay, superficial, don't worry about X, Y, and Z. No, we don't realize the lasting effects on the brain, on the children, on the people in generations to come. And it reminds me of a study that was carried out, and they said that soon as this gaming and the entertainment industry really took a turn, the suicide rates went up, underage births and things went up, a lot of things went up. And you really look at it and wonder why. It's really easy to see, because if you glorify something, it becomes what people want to do.
100%.
And I noticed something the other day, and I'll give the floor back to you guys, but I wanted to mention this because I pondered over it and I sat down and I looked at it from a perspective of how can I benefit from this. I noticed human beings, we are very close in comparison to like herd-like mentality, they call it, right? There were 4 or 5 individuals standing up in the mosque. It was full, and I was just watching, looking at the khutbah. I was looking in the direction of the imam, and I noticed one get tired and he sat down. As soon as he sat down, he sat down. As soon as he sat down, he sat down. They all followed. And it reminded me that all of the prophets and messengers sent were ones who did herd. They were looking after.
They were shepherds.
They were shepherds. Why? Because we have that herd mentality. Whatever the other person's doing or seems good, we will follow them, right? And that's why the prophets and messengers would be shepherds, because they have to control the herd from killing themselves, because they will actually all kill themselves. Just what I'm trying to say. If one sheep does this, the other sheep are going to follow them, right? And I found that very profound, that we are like that. And then when we unpackage that from a human psychology standpoint, we can see how these games, the entertainment industry, actually really has a greater objective and agenda. And that's what we need to internalize, actualize, and start to be a bit more vigilant, more educated, more aware, and do the right thing.
The thing you mentioned about the shepherd, it's still in society, but now it's flipped. The shepherd is not a good person, wants good for the herd. It's a person who purposefully lets the herd die for his own benefit.
Yes.
If you start to research the people who own all these filming, music labels, all these gaming companies, you start to connect the dots. You realize these are evil people. And I don't advise people to go deep in depth, because it's a huge rabbit hole, But for the person who needs it, like the person who is an Islamic scholar and he needs to warn against these things, you start to realize these are extremely disgusting, evil people who, they are the shepherds, but they don't like the herds. They want to kill the herds. They want to let them free and destroy the world. And I remember you mentioned about how Satan has steps. I remember that the Islamic scholar Ibn al-Qayyim was a very ancient Islamic scholar. He mentioned that there are 7 steps that the shaitan uses to mislead a person.
7 traps, shaitan.
Yeah, the 7 traps. So firstly, for example, I'm a religious guy and everything. So first, he gets me to stop doing the voluntary acts, the acts that are not obligatory on a person, but is recommended. Then he tricks the person to doing more and more permissible things. So less voluntary, more permissible. It's not haram, it's not forbidden, but
because you're busy in the permissible things, you're missing the benefit from the things that are.
And if you do too much of a permissible thing, it can become forbidden.
Haram.
Then he starts letting you do things that are disliked by the Prophet ﷺ, things that are not forbidden, but they're disliked. So you're doing now more for permissible, then dislike, then into forbidden. Small things, maybe like you littering or so on, small things, until he makes you do big things, like music, which is considered a major sin. Fun fact in Islam, is actually considered a major sin, and then eventually to the point where you do a big major sin like murder, magic. Some scholars say that magic can even be like disbelief.
The narration the Prophet Muhammad mentioned the 7 great deadly sins, and he mentioned the second is magic after shirk.
And then after, for example, murder or something, eventually disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you have left the religion of Islam. And what did it start from? Living the voluntary things. That's why the scholars always mention that for those people who are struggling and they want to be steadfast, you have to fight yourself and do the voluntary things.
Yes, exactly.
Because that shows you have passion. You do this for the sake of God Almighty. So, like, even with the topic of the games, every single game is like that, where they have some form of evil, even though it doesn't seem like it, whether it be magic, whether it be immorality. Even I remember a game, my brothers used to play it, and it's just a game about you're some dwarves and you're mining, and you're trying to mine some minerals from planets with aliens. It was like a very fun game, normal, okay, haha, very funny. But before you start, if you want to power up, you have to drink a beer. Why does it have to be beer? Why is it not apple juice? Why is it not orange juice? Why is it not
beer, brother?
You see what I mean? Why does it have to be
Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs?
Exactly.
She's 1 woman, 7 men.
Why does it have to be beer? Why is it not apple juice, orange juice, energy drink? So we may laugh about this, but if you think about it, as a small kid, as kids, we're not like the kids aren't like adults where we think logically. They see the people around them. What do they do? And they follow them.
They mimic, they copy, they take their ideologies and their belief systems.
And it becomes their worldview.
Exactly.
Constructed.
So why is it now all these children are disrespectful, even though you look at their parents, very kind people, and when you look at the kid, it's like he's like a devil version of the parent, It's because the stuff they're watching, the stuff they're playing, it's
I was thinking I wanted to ask you guys, maybe more the specialists here. But I was thinking, because we had this...
Bring the mic closer, brother. We want to hear your voice nice and sound.
We had the episode about social media, right? And we talked about, like, social media is not something you can say is completely haram, right? Even scholars mention, if you have the opportunity to share beneficial stuff, you should do that, right? What do Mr. Specialist think about this? Is this possible to, like, okay, so there are 2 things here, right? Gaming, is it possible to do something like that in gaming or streaming, apart, like not connected necessarily
I would like
gaming?
to interject and say you're suspicious, but I want to make mention of something. Yani, Islam is very principle driven, as you know. And we look at things in very unique ways. And one of them is we look at something which is a tool and then we give it a ruling. A knife is a tool. Now, it only has a hukm of being impermissible if it's sold to the one who is a murderer or the one who's going to use it for evil. But if I'm going to cut my chicken and steak, no problem, right?
Yes. 100%.
Now this is the tool, right? But what about the actual thing itself, which is not a tool? It's an action, or it's a, gaming itself is not a tool. Social media is a tool. You use it however you wish. Gaming is just a game itself. It's how it is. It's standalone. You can use it or not use it.
Right.
Do you understand me? Now, the part that is a tool is the streaming. How do you use the streaming? But then if you look at it in essence, you're streaming what? A game, which is a standalone object or item or thing that you can do. And we have to look at the ruling based upon the thing itself, as opposed to, the whole overall output. Whereas in social media, it's a platform to share videos. What are
You're more in control.
What are the videos? I can share a Quran recitation. I can share me hugging my children. I can share a story about a noble man, or I can share filth. And you understand me? But generally speaking, why I wanted to interject is because we find, and I've found myself personally, that games in and of themselves don't have the option to be used for a greater good.
Yeah, that's 100% correct.
And that's the problem.
That was my goal as a streamer, but I started to fail, right? And my viewers, I'll send this to them. They'll know this. And I'll also mention a story now that I think about it. I actually used to work for a famous YouTuber streamer, but we'll mention the story after. So gaming is not like social media. Gaming is just, it's made for entertainment and nothing else.
Yes.
The only way it could be used, for example, is for pilots or for those who are studying, for example, maybe more marine studies or biological studies, where they simulate things like simulate a plane.
Yes.
Or simulate them in a boat and how to control a boat, those who are in maritime and so on. This is the only way gaming can be used. And this is not even gaming. This is a sub-gaming thing, which is only specific to those people.
Yes.
It's not something general. So gaming, that's the only way it can be used from what I can see. But streaming is very, very hard because, as I said, you can't find any game where there's 100% halal or permissible. Like, I'll give you an example. A game called Among Us was very famous. It's like it's a concept that has been, probably popularized for decades or so on. But it's a concept where there's 10 people. One of them is the imposter. He kills others and he has to win, and no one has to find out who he is. So this person, in order for people to not find out he is the killer or the imposter, eventually has to lie, right? He has to say, "Oh, I wasn't here. I was somewhere else." And lying is a major sin. You see what I mean? So it's very difficult. Very difficult. Even streaming. The only way streaming could work is, for example, streaming a live Islamic chat or streaming, doing like building something. This is the only, and this is something that's very, very niche.
That's my point exactly. So the streaming of general day-to-day things are not connected even to gaming. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So like, I want to stream an Islamic lecture, Islamic class, or podcast, whatever it is. It's not connected to gaming in essence. It can be connected to it from a perspective of talking about it, referring to it. But in terms of the gaming industry itself, to stream gaming, how can you find a way to make it halal, except that you're developing a game which is about finding a quest of, you, like, for example, you go and you find an artifact and then you need to find how that's connected to Islam, or like kind of, I just came to my head, by the way.
Even that is extremely difficult.
Exactly.
Because many scholars mention that picture making of living beings is forbidden.
It's forbidden, exactly.
With a proof of the prophetic sayings. So that alone is extremely difficult, even if you have an Islamic intention. What about those who are playing games that have music, have magic, have so on and so on and so on?
Yeah.
Very hard.
It's very hard. So it's something that's, I thought about it once. I thought about how can I make a halal form of game, but then you realize that there are, like, the traps of shaitan, there are better things to use my time.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm making halal games. The whole idea is to take the kids away from that. I remember when I grew up, I say to my own children, we were problem solving. I was outside making 100%. A den, climbing a tree, doing, and this helped me as an adult. You know what I'm trying to say? Now you guys are just stuck in situations where you're just this screen, and they actually did a study of the effect of a screen on the human brain and the human perception. And what they did is they did a study to show that it actually changes perception slowly.
100%.
And what they did is they put a group of individuals in a, like a Big Brother scenario. Like in a house, you live there for a month or whatever, and so on and so forth, and everyone's monitored, the next one's it. What they did is they put them in this where they had TVs and so on and so forth, and then they just cut the TV off one day. So people were going back, clicking it on, nothing's on. And then they put on the TV, now it's obviously morally not right, but they put on the TV a bowl. In that bowl was feces, and the feces was like not a real. It was like a
model type of thing.
Yeah, it was like no, it was like anime, like what they do,
animations,
like animations, right? And it was steam coming off of it, and then they noticed that people click on, watch for a bit, see what it is, turn it off, but they would come back again, click it on, see if it changed. And then he said, the guy who's given the study said, after a time, we put on, guess which celebrities this is, and open up a phone line, on the thingy. And I can't remember exact figures or how many of those people tried to phone up, whatever else. He said that a large majority of people were trying to phone up. He said this is the perception. We can control people's perception through the TV. Is that we can make feces appealing to people. And that was the whole idea. The whole idea of the study was to show how idiotic it is and how they have in their biographies, in their books, they talk about the golden time. They set at 5 o'clock or 4 a.m. in the morning. They're up. They do their exercise. They have they do their studies. They read all the way to 12 o'clock, and and you find in their lives, and even on this famous documentary about social media, one of them goes, "I don't let my children have devices."
Yeah, that's crazy. The creators
of the ones who have devices, I don't let my kids have devices because they know they're intelligent, they're smart, they understand the dangers of these things.
It's crazy. The people who are pushing the most, they're the ones who are afraid of their own creation. This is crazy. That's like, when you think about that, that alone is enough.
Yes.
Like, imagine now, I work a job or something, or I promote something, and then when my kid wants to try, I forbid him.
Yeah.
That shows you this is something evil. Like, would you really create something that you would be afraid that your child would use it? During these streaming days, I would have clips, and these clips sometimes would motivate me to act more dumb, so that people will be engaged by it. So these clips, I would cut them and send them to a famous YouTuber. This guy has, I'll let you guys know, 3 million subscribers, and my viewers know personally this person because we got into a bit of a fight with this guy. So this guy, I was famous a bit. He put me in his videos and so on, and then he hired me. He hired me because he saw that my clips were so good. He said, I'll hire you. I'll pay you money. It was good, really good money. To this day, I still have the money. He said, I'll hire you. You get me clips and submit them to me. So I would, look for clips of streamers and so on. But I actually told him that, I'm a Muslim. I'm not going to give you any clips with music, any clips with swearing. And he was fine with it. But what happened was, I got admitted into the staff server, like a private chat with only the staff members. And one of his very close friends, who was like the top administrator, randomly he writes a message, so-and-so person is non-binary, so we don't have any, and I apologize for using this word, retard Sharia law here. Insulting the law of Muslims. And I didn't even write in that chat. I literally joined. Within like the first or second day of joining, he writes that. For no reason. So I complained. Nothing really happened. So as I come back, and this is probably very dumb or immature of me, some person posted some LGBT thing, and I kind of, mocked it or jokingly mocked it. So that same person who made fun of my religion for no reason puts in the staff server, please beware, do not insult this person, this is completely forbidden in this server. So then I replied back and I tagged everyone. I agree, as well as insulting religions and so. And then he replies back to me saying that, my religion is so and so, my religion supports this and like slavery and these types of disgusting things in like a negative way. And I didn't say anything, by the way. This happened all because he saw someone called Rashid who was Muslim. That's it. So this guy went back and forth, and it went to the point where there was another Muslim, but this person he was also my viewer, had been affected so much by their mindset and so on that he was actually against me. I was by myself and the whole server is against me. And I spoke to the owner, the guy who hired me in the first place. But then he said he had to let me go because I was doing so and so. And that person to this day is still, nothing happened to his close friend. And this person's a famous guy, by the way, 3 million. I'll show you guys after this podcast. 3 million subscribers. So it shows you, man, like they're against good morals. They're against so on, to the point where if you don't do anything, they just attack you. It reminds me of the verse from the Quran, الشيطان يعدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء. Shaitan leads you to poverty and entices or encourages immorality. And after that, Wallahu يعدكم Allah promises you forgiveness and so on.
And his fadl and his bounty.
Yeah, 100%. And I apologize, I forgot the verse, but it shows you that
it's powerful, yeah.
you don't even do anything. Just by you being a person who goes against the devil's disgusting tactics, they will attack you for no reason. I did nothing. And advice for those, whether you're a parent or you're same age as me or you're younger, and you're thinking now, okay, these people are right, but what should we do now? Especially a person who's been playing for the whole of his life, is firstly, try and, reduce the time you're playing. And if you're going to play something which has little or no haram things, forbidden things whatsoever. And second, replace it with good things, like activities like the gym, swimming, archery, running, some things that are fun, even like going to the arcade. To be honest, the arcade is better because the arcade has simple games like Tetris and so on. Slowly but surely, it's just like we mentioned the 7 steps of shaitan, reverse it. You're at the lowest of the low. Slowly. And then with consistency and with calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua, you'll notice that within no time, you've started to pray on time. You've let off these games and these disgusting things with music, subliminal messages. You're going walking more, you're out with your friends, you're using your phone less. So stick to that and try your best and, strive to be the best, and inshallah, you'll be the best. And if you have any words before we end.
But this feeds into the thing about faith and why God the Almighty sent messengers with miracles to reaffirm us or give us the ability to reaffirm our faith in them. So it reminds me of the narration of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, when he mentioned something very, very profound. He said, Islam started as something strange and will return back to something strange, but give glad tidings to the strangers. And one of the muhaddithin, the people explain hadith and so on and so forth from the scholars, they mentioned that the strangeness is the fact that the people will be upholding what God wants from them, and even those people will be strange amongst the people who have claimed faith as well.
SubhanAllah, yeah. So
like, for example, among Muslims, a practicing Muslim is considered strange. Like, what, you don't let your kids play this, or you don't let... We're Muslim, we do it.
Unfortunately, it's like some of my friends, I remember when I first explained to them the issue of Minecraft, because we used to play that game for hours a day, hours. He was like, what? No, you're being too extreme and so on. But once he realized, he kind of agreed with me.
And that's the thing. And that's the reality. Reality is that, as you mentioned, the person who upholds these values, these morals, this way of life is going to be considered a stranger amongst strangers.
Yep.
And why? Stranger to the other people see him as strange, and he feels like a stranger because he's by himself. And what did the Prophet Muhammad, he gave us words of encouragement, Tuba, for the stranger. Tuba meaning, as they mentioned, glad tidings of a tree in paradise. Yeah. So our goal and our focus should be, we're focusing on, I don't fit in, because I'm aiming to a different direction. And that direction is, I want to be in paradise with my Lord and to see his face subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be with the noble people. And I want to be away from punishment and grief and sadness. And I think that's what I want to end with, some words about, ask yourself these questions, what are we living for and why are we living for it? Why am I wandering with my eyes closed and allowing things to happen in front of me that realistically I wouldn't like my family to do?
100%.
And why am I choosing these paths that I'm going down and all of the things that I'm doing? And the reality is, once you ask yourself those questions internally, sincerely, you know where the answer will get you. And I think I want to leave there for the viewers to ask themselves really where they're heading, where they're going, and why.
And before we end,